we have targets as a company that we want to achieve this year. By the way, we've been doing that for now over a decade,
right.
tying everyone's bonus in the company to our sustainability performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year we have targets around reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We have targets related to our water use, targets related to our renewable electricity use, and then waste. And so all of those things tied together. So we have regular quarterly targets to hit, and then by the end of the year, we have to achieve those in order to receive the full bonus payout that's linked to sustainability.
Right. Welcome to the Ojo Yoshida Report podcast, Chip Manufacturing Sustainability Edition. I'm your host, George Leopold. Our guest for this deep dive edition is Todd Brady, Director of Global Affairs and Sustainability at Intel Corporation. Welcome, Todd Brady.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So the company is in the midst of a huge expansion of its fab operations in the U.S. and soon, we believe, in Europe, and as it transitions back to its manufacturing roots. So let's start there, Todd. Can you bring us up to date on where things stand at Intel's Ohio fab and the plans in Germany, and how is the company baking sustainability into those operations?
Yeah, thanks, George. And you're absolutely right. It's an incredible time to be in our industry and at Intel in general, just the expansion and growth that we're seeing all around the world. We just opened up our newest factory in Ireland. So you mentioned Europe and Germany, but we just opened Fab 34 in Ireland over the weekend that we're very excited about and moving forward with that. A few weeks ago, a couple weeks before that, I was in Ohio, and we were doing a 1-year anniversary of our announcement in Ohio. Fab is under construction. We took people on tours to see what was going on and did a 1-year celebration with the community. Similarly, in Germany, I was there just a couple weeks before that. Things are progressing there in terms of planning, design, all of that work, the pre-work before you start construction. So we're moving ahead in all locations all around the world.
Okay. So how are you folding in this sustainability push into those new facilities, since a lot of people are saying here's a great opportunity to, change the way the industry works, move towards sustainable manufacturing?
Yeah, absolutely. So sustainability is integrated into everything that we're doing at Intel. And the way that we do that is by first setting goals and targets. Where we want to be. Where do we want to be a decade from now, 2 decades from now? Because then that shapes the decisions that we make today. And so we have goals to be net zero greenhouse gas emissions for our operations by 2040, what we call net positive water by 2030, zero waste to landfill by 2030. And so having those overarching goals and initiatives then help us set the milestones for what we need to do in Ohio and Germany and Ireland and Arizona, everywhere around the world.
Right. Yeah, that was my next question was if you could lay out the net zero goals. I noticed on the website you're up to about 93% renewable energy globally, right?
Correct. And so even though we have a goal of 2040 net zero greenhouse gas emissions, we've set interim targets for 2030 that we need to achieve. And one of those is 100% renewable electricity by 2030. We're making great progress there. As you mentioned, we're over 93%. We'll probably end the year. I would estimate this year we'll end the year at over 95%. And so we're getting very close to that 100% renewable electricity, which is a key part of our strategy to drive down our greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah, that would be the scope 2
correct
address here, and then but obviously as a leading semiconductor manufacturer, I would imagine that the heavy focus is on scope 1 to make your manufacturing processes more sustainable. What's going on there?
Yeah, so scope 1 are our emissions from our manufacturing process. You're correct. And so actually this is something that we began as Intel and as an industry 20 plus years ago, which was, and a lot of people don't realize that, but our industry was actually a leading industry, and we signed a memorandum of understanding with the U.S. EPA back in the late 90s to reduce our emissions over the next decade. First industry to do anything like this. And so we began investing heavily in abatement for our factory tools. The biggest use of greenhouse gases in semiconductor manufacturing is what are called PFCs, or fluorinated gases. These are gases that are used in etch, CVD, and other processes.
And these are major greenhouse gases.
Correct. They have high global warming potential, right? They stay in the atmosphere a long time.
Yes.
They have global warming potential. And so we began abating those 20 plus years ago, began putting on abatement. So fast forward to today, we've done, and I'm not suggesting that was easy, because it wasn't, but we've been able to reduce those emissions by, in some cases, over 90%, right? On average, about 80% reduction. So now we've got to go after, to get to net zero, we've got to go after that last 20%.
Right.
And so to do that, we're doing a variety of initiatives, including, are there new novel abatement devices that we can use, or technologies that will get us to zero or near zero? Do we need to do any additional chemistry changes? But these things are fundamental to making a semiconductor. There's no easy switch that you can just flip and say, okay, let's use this other chemical.
Right.
And so one of the things that, because of how challenging and difficult it is, one of the things that we've done is to form what we call the Semiconductor Climate Consortium. We've done that through SEMI, kicked that off, have 18 leading companies across the industry where we're all working together on that goal of how do we get to net zero greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah, we've talked to Dr. Moshemi Bhatt about that in great detail a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And we know that you're leading that effort, right? So you've got a lot of experience. It's you guys are actually making stuff, so that's where the rubber meets the road. How do you sort of extend that to get buy-in from your suppliers and your customers, so that this 80, 90 companies can expand and you guys can collaborate in a transparent way?
Yeah. So several things. Recently at Semicon West, we held after the 2 days of main discussions and interactions and whatnot, we held an event the following day with our suppliers, and it was all around sustainability. And we said, okay, here's what we need to accomplish in terms of sustainability. We need your help to get there. How do we work together as an industry? Right. We'll follow that up probably in the Q1, Q2 timeframe with another summit with our suppliers, bringing them all together, and again, exclusively talking about sustainability. And then we've also integrated this into just our regular interaction and engagement with our suppliers. We have scorecards and management review meetings and a number of different things that we do on a regular basis, where we give feedback to our suppliers on everything from cost to quality to schedule, and that includes sustainability. So we've integrated that in so that it's a regular topic of discussion that we're having one-on-one with each supplier in terms of what our expectations are and how they're performing relative to that.
Yeah, and I know you said that you were investing, the key word here, as early as as far back as the 90s. So how do you convince these guys that sustainability is a benefit, not a cost? I mean, that's part of the challenge, right?
Sure. I mean, anytime you make change is difficult. It's challenging. There's costs associated with it. But I think increasingly, maybe if you asked me that 5 or 10 years ago, I might have said, yeah, we're getting a lot of resistance.
Right.
Today, I think everyone sees the critical, the critical need to address climate change. So it's not just Intel saying that. It's our customers saying that. It's government saying that. It's, the outside stakeholders. It's our investors. And so we have so many drivers today. People who invest in our companies across the supply chain are saying, hey, what are you doing about sustainability? Our direct customers, And our customers are now seeing it as part of their procurement. So if you want to sell a PC to a government agency anywhere around the world, there's likely going to be some type of sustainability requirement. So how do we support that to make our customers successful?
Right.
And then, of course, you have the governments around the world, the community members, the activists, and then most importantly, our employees. Our employees want to work for a company that's taking this seriously and doing something about it.
Yeah, right. And it seems now like, there's been so much trouble getting nations to come together and agree on targets, and it isn't clear whether that's going to work. But on the other hand, the policymakers are sort of sending the appropriate signals to the key stakeholders in the industry at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say you've got the private sector off doing, all of the leading companies within the private sector have set goals or targets voluntarily to say, okay, we're going to do X, Y, Z. We need the policy makers as well at the table. And so, if there's an ask for me, it's on the policy side. Hey, let's do everything we can to align and to work together from a policy perspective, because as a private sector, we can only go so far on our own. We need that government and policy support and foundation going forward.
So, from a technical standpoint, as you gear up these fabs in Ohio and in Europe, you're trying to build sustainability into all of this without sacrificing performance on the products you're trying to sell, right? That's the other trade-off.
Yeah. So one of the targets that we have to help us get to net zero is we're building all of these factories to LEED standards. That's leadership in environmental design or energy and environmental design. And so as we're building them, we're asking the question, how can we build them to be more energy efficient so that they have a lower environmental impact? So an example would be in our newest Ireland fab, we've talked about PFCs and F gases and the impact they have.
Yeah.
The next level down is we still use a lot of natural gas in industrial applications for various heating purposes.
Yep, another greenhouse gas. Yeah.
Another greenhouse gas. And so in Ireland, what we've been able to do is extensively implement heat recovery, where we can capture the heat that's generated from the tools, from the equipment, and use that to preheat any of the streams that need heating. And in doing that, we've achieved about a 9-to-1 ratio. So in other words, we use 9 times as much heat capture as we do natural gas usage. And so that's a big focus area for us as well, is how can we optimize our design so that we can minimize the use of natural gas going forward.
Yeah, we noted in the sustainability, the climate consortium that we mentioned earlier, that on the demand side, they said that something like 63% of electricity consumption was in devices, and I assume that number also includes data centers, which of course are notorious energy hogs. So that looks like an area that's ripe for some major improvement if you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you shift and look at our products, we also have I've talked a lot about the net zero goals that we have for our operations. We have similar goals for our products, to make our products 10x more energy efficient, for example, is one of our goals. And so, yes, when you look at the whole life cycle of a semiconductor device or an IT product, depending on what that product is, the use phase or plugging that device into the wall and using electricity can be the largest portion of the carbon footprint. And so making those devices more energy efficient is absolutely critical.
Yeah, I have just moved from the Northern Virginia area, which I think has more data centers than any place on Earth, and they're popping up everywhere. And you think, this is unsustainable, right? You get data centers running and it's 98 degrees out. The cooling alone must be a huge energy hog. So this looks like an area that's ripe.
There are opportunities there. In fact, we've been doing some very novel work around what's called immersion cooling. which is using a heat transfer fluid to dissipate the heat as opposed to using your traditional air conditioning. Because when it comes to a data center, the air conditioning or the facilities load can be half or more of the energy demand. So opportunities to do that as well.
Yeah, and within that industry, I know there are groups like the Uptime Institute, which actually have pretty standard metrics for how you get to parity in terms of energy use versus performance. So another thing that we wanted to talk about before we close is that I think Intel is probably one of the earliest users of objectives and key results, right? OKRs.
Correct.
And you sort of built that into your quarterly results, and I believe you're tying bonuses to meeting sustainability goals, right?
That's exactly right. So we have targets as a company that we want to achieve this year. By the way, we've been doing that for now over a decade, right. Tying everyone's bonus in the company to our sustainability performance. And so this year we have targets around reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We have targets related to our water use, targets related to our renewable electricity use, and then waste. And so all of those things tie together. So we have regular quarterly targets to hit, and then by the end of the year, we have to achieve those in order to receive the full bonus payout that's linked to sustainability.
Right. And one thing I noted in terms of, you don't say recycling manufacturing waste, you say upcycling.
Correct.
How define that?
And the reason is because we want to extract value out of that. Yeah. So what we're trying to reflect is we're upcycling, we're getting value out of it. We're not simply recycling it, but in many cases we can actually generate revenue off of doing that. And so that's what we're going after, is how do we take this waste stream, and instead of just looking at it as a waste that we discard or we recycle somehow, we can actually extract value out of it. And so that's why we use the word upcycling to try to reflect that and encourage our engineers to look for those opportunities to extract value from those waste streams.
Yeah, the example I could think of is recycling lithium batteries. You don't want the lithium to end up in the landfill. You want to reuse it because it's hard to find, right?
That's right. Yeah, good example.
Yeah. So let's close, Todd, with sort of a philosophical question, and this is we've noted that technology can be a two-edged sword here. It could help solve this problem, or it could exacerbate it. So it seems to us, given the momentum that's building in the industry, that the key here is what that report from SEMI said, that we need transparency, accountability, and aggressive goals that are not just aspirational. So how does Intel intend to make that a reality?
Yeah, I actually think that there's a huge opportunity here. So yes, as an industry, as we grow, we need to reduce our footprint. That's on us to do that and continue to get more efficient. However, there's a huge opportunity to use IT, to use semiconductors to help the rest of the world reduce their carbon footprint. I mean, we're doing it at Intel. AI is a great example, right? Using AI to make our factories run more efficiently, which then reduces our greenhouse gas emissions. And there have been numerous studies on this topic where the effect can be almost a 10-to-1 effect. So for every ton of carbon invested in making the chip, we can reduce the world's emissions by 10x that through smart buildings, smart manufacturing, smart agriculture, smart cities, on and on and on. And so I think we have a unique opportunity here as an industry to not only be responsible in reducing our footprint, but in helping others reduce theirs.
So it's sort of a Moore's law of sustainability, if you will.
There we go. I like that. See, George, you just coined it. That's just going to be the Leopold law.
And the trick here is you sort of identified the low-hanging fruit, and the hard part now is that last, what I think you said earlier, that last
about 20%. For us,
yeah,
it's that 80-20 rule. We've got that last 20% to go after,
yeah,
which is challenging. No
yeah.
doubt about it.
The last mile is always the toughest. But well, Todd, we let's stay in touch. We wish you luck with these efforts, and we're as we always say, we're coming off the hottest year in meteorological records. And we clearly have to do something, and we have to do it fast. And it just seems to us that the people who make stuff are going to play a critical role here.
Well said. And
Okay.
we're right there with you.
Okay. Todd Brady is Intel's sustainability chief. Todd, we thank you for your time and best of luck on your efforts.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Great to talk to you.
The Ojo Yoshida Report wishes to thank our sponsors. Members of SEMI are leading the industry group's Semiconductor Climate Consortium in its quest to accelerate the efforts to achieve net zero carbon emissions for the global semiconductor industry, using baselining and road mapping techniques or reporting guidance and sharing best practices. Learn more and get involved at semi.org. Samsung Semiconductor is among the world's leading chip manufacturers, offering a range of products that power the tools that we use every day. Heavily invested in semiconductor innovation, Samsung designs and manufactures memory, system LSI foundry, and LED solutions.